welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a really fascinating source.
Yeah, we're taking a critical look at the Netflix film Moxie.
Right, Moxie.
Huh.
It definitely generated some buzz when it first dropped. So our mission for this deep dive really is to unpack what this particular review highlights about, the film's intent versus maybe how it actually executed things.
Especially concerning its themes. Things like feminism, social commentary, it's all in there.
And maybe crucially, what lessons we can draw about telling these kinds of important stories effectively. Making them land.
Absolutely. So the source material we're digging into today is a critical review. It's titled Moxie Review, written by Mary Munoz for Moviescramble.
Okay.
And it was published back on March 17th, 2021.
Gotcha. And the reviewer jumps right in, doesn't she? Saying how pertinent the film's arrival was.
Oh, incredibly pertinent. Yeah.
You think about it, right? All the social media stuff, the video calls, WhatsApp messages, women and men too, talking about catcalling, harassment, reclaiming the streets.
It was very much in the air at the time.
And the review connects that to this idea of needing to educate people, like from school age, about respect. So the film felt really timely.
Definitely sets the stage. And the film itself, the plot centers on Vivian. She's played by Hadley Robinson.
Right.
Starts off as this shy high school kid, just wants to keep her head down, get into college.
Usual goal.
Yeah, but the school environment is pretty toxic, misogynistic even, and this gets her interested in her mom's past. Amy Poehler plays her mom.
Who is a bit of a rebel.
Exactly, a teen rebel, a protester. So Vivian gets inspired and starts anonymously publishing this zine, this magazine called Moxie.
Okay.
And the whole point is to call out the bad behavior she sees and kind of encourage other girls to stand up too.
So a really powerful premise. But this is where the review starts to find some issues.
This is where it gets interesting, yeah.
It notes that despite this timely setup, Amy Poehler's direction doesn't quite use the platform to the fullest extent. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it immediately flags this key thing. Having good intentions isn't always enough, right?
Right.
The review basically argues that what should have been, a really powerful statement about self-worth, standing up for causes, women's rights, it kind of got diluted.
Diluted how?
It says the film somehow gets lost in the melee of twee speeches and tokenism.
Twee speeches and tokenism. Oof. That suggests the way the story was told maybe undermined the message itself.
That's the core critique, yeah. The narrative vehicle wasn't quite strong enough or maybe authentic enough.
And one of the sharpest points seems to be around the characters, like their depth or lack thereof. Yeah,
the review definitely digs into that. It admits there are moments maybe where you feel empowered or refreshed watching Moxie.
Okay, some moments.
But largely, the dialogue feels, and this is a quote, like a motivational quote from Instagram.
Ouch. Like cliches.
Kinda, yeah. And the characters themselves are described as lacking any depth.
And what about the main character, Vivian, the one starting the revolution?
Well, this is pretty critical. The reviewer calls her bland and whiny.
Bland and whiny.
Yeah, and notes that you think she would have a little spark about her, given what she does.
You would think.
But instead, the critique is she just sort of thinks wearing a leather jacket makes her edgy.
So, more surface level than deep, authentic change.
That's the implication. Not quite the depth you'd hope for in someone driving this kind of story.
That's a pretty tough assessment for your protagonist. Does the review suggest why she felt so underdeveloped? Or what effect that has?
It implies that this lack of internal spark makes it hard for the audience to really connect, to believe in her as this change maker.
Makes sense. Hard to root for someone you don't quite believe in.
Exactly. And it's not just Vivian. The review looks at the supporting roles, too, and inclusivity.
Ah, okay. What does it say there?
It points to Lucy, played by Alycia Pascual-Peña, says she's much more interesting and empowering.
Oh, interesting.
But she's relegated to a supporting role in Vivian's story.
So a potentially stronger character gets pushed aside.
That's the critique. And connecting that to the bigger picture on representation, this is a strong point in the review.
Okay.
It says, while the film talks about inclusion and diversity, disabled and trans characters are pushed to the periphery, their stories never explored.
So mentioning diversity, but not really engaging with it meaningfully.
Precisely. It highlights that missed opportunity for real intersectional storytelling, exploring how different identities interact.
Right. Race, class, gender, disability. It all combines.
And the reviewer specifically notes, the film's perspective feels very much like it's told from a middle-class white girl.
Vivian's perspective.
Right, who doesn't even understand the struggles of her best friend, who is a first-generation immigrant.
So that issue of maybe superficial diversity, the tokenism mentioned earlier.
Exactly. The review really flags that as a problem. And, it raises that broader question we see debated a lot. Authentic representation versus just kind of performative inclusion.
Yeah, a really crucial distinction. Okay, what about the antagonists, the adults?
Right, so moving to them, there's actually some praise, but for a negative portrayal, Patrick Schwarzenegger as Mitchell, the chauvinist creep.
Okay, what did the reviewer think of him?
Said he created a character so smug and unlikable that the reviewer had to stop myself from reaching through the screen to punch him senseless.
Wow. That's effective villainy, I guess.
Agrees. Definitely effective. His smirk is infuriating, apparently.
So you love to hate him?
Pretty much. But what's interesting is how this connects to the adults, the authority figures.
Right. Marcia Gay Harden as the head teacher, Ike Barinholtz as the English teacher.
Yeah, they're described as equally infuriating as the so-called adults of the situation.
Equally infuriating. Why? Are they enabling Mitchell?
That's exactly it. The review says they pander to Mitchell's sporting success and are willing to either criminalize or ignore the pleas of the girls at every step.
So they're part of the problem structure.
But for the reviewer, this plotline kind of fell flat.
Ooh. Why?
Because they just couldn't believe two thoroughly inept adults were in positions of authority. It sort of stretched credibility for them.
Sacrificing realism, maybe,
Yeah.
to make a point about systemic issues.
Perhaps. It undermined the realism for this reviewer anyway.
Let's shift to the themes. The film covers a lot of ground, right? The review mentions Moxie throws every type of toxic female experience at the viewer.
It really does. Like being told your tank top is too revealing, being rated by boys, having to work twice as hard to take your seat at the table. It's a long list.
Sounds exhausting, honestly.
But
comprehensive, maybe.
Well, here's the crucial problem the review identifies. None of these experiences are properly explored.
So breadth over depth.
Exactly. They're simply discussed, resolved, and then we move on to the next issue. Just ticking boxes, almost.
Any specific examples of that rushed feeling?
Yeah, it mentions a truly shocking rape storyline thrown in within the last 5 minutes.
Wow, in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, which the reviewer sees as a prime example of this rushed approach. Clearly, something that heavy needs more space, more care.
Absolutely. That lessens the impact tremendously, you'd think.
That's the conclusion. The review states the film rushes through so much content in its 1 hour and 50 minutes runtime that nothing really has the chance to have an impact.
So the central insight here is about trying to do too much. A classic storytelling issue.
It really is. It dilutes the focus. The reviewer actually suggests a potential fix.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Suggests that had they focused on just one or two issues and showed how these demonstrated a more diverse group of young women, it might have really been able to hammer a message or two home.
So focus in, go deeper, rather than broader and shallower.
And that kind of focused approach, especially given the context we talked about earlier, could have been particularly powerful for any young men and women watching. A more concentrated, resonant message.
Right. It raises that question, doesn't it? What's more effective for social commentary in film? Covering many bases lightly or diving deep into one or two?
It's a real tension. This reviewer clearly lands on the side of depth for true impact.
Okay, so let's recap this deep dive into the Moviescramble review of Moxie. It sounds like it paints a picture of a film with, really good intentions, noble goals, definitely timely.
Absolutely. Timely message.
But it ultimately struggled to deliver a story that was really impactful, nuanced.
Yeah, mainly due to that really broad scope, the sort of superficial character development we discussed, and just the rapid pacing through all these very serious themes.
It really makes you think, then, about what makes media truly effective when it is trying to tackle complex social issues.
It does. Is it better to, like you said, cast a wide net? Or should you focus deeply, even if it means leaving some things out to really make something resonate?
Yeah, the tough balance. So, to leave you, our listener, with something to think about. Here's a provocative thought. In this age where conversations around social justice are, let's face it, so vital, how can creators best navigate this challenge? Presenting diverse experiences, powerful messages, but without sacrificing that depth, that authenticity. How do they make sure their art truly connects and maybe even inspires real dialogue or change?
That's the big question, isn't it? Something definitely worth mulling over.